That's weird. All of a sudden, I have this overwhelmingly strong urge to talk about Rolex.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Industry Outsider. Today we're going to be covering one of my least favorite topics, the Moonswatch. As many of you already know, Adrian Barker of the former Bark and Jack channel released a video this week titled, "I was wrong about the Moonswatch, it's..." This is the same Adrian Barker who I briefly argued with in the comments section of my own video about this Moonswatch titled, "The Swatch and Omega Moonswatch is just awful." Now, I'm not trying to dunk on Adrian or get in a flame war with Adrian. I like Adrian. I watch his channel. I think his content is excellent. I even bought some of his merch. And I think we're getting a little bit closer on our opinions about the Moonswatch. So Adrian bought a Moonswatch and the bioceramic pusher broke with little to no pressure. Now he has a broken Moonswatch and he has subsequently reconsidered his support for the watch. To be clear, he still thinks that it was a brilliant idea, though he does seem disenchanted with the execution. While I thought that the whole thing was an abomination, and I also have a problem with the execution. However, he did bring up some interesting points, so let's start there. Adrian brought up the notion that Omega needed a marketing push due to the delays in the James Bond film and the Olympics. That's probably true, and honestly, I didn't take that into consideration when I was trashing the Moonswatch, so kudos to him. Omega and Swatch both surely benefited from the hype surrounding the Moonswatch. Hype is good for sales, period. I didn't take that into consideration for my first video. He then goes on to make a comparison between Rolex and Tudor and Omega and Swatch. He does say that this is a similar idea, but to a much more extreme level, and this is where we differ. Because I believe that the chasm in quality between Omega and Swatch is one that cannot comfortably be bridged. Although considering the quality of the Moonswatch, it doesn't really matter. Even if the marketing guys got it right, which I'm loath to admit, the execution has been so awful that I believe both brands are now damaged. Allow me to explain. For starters, it was supposed to be available online. Now it isn't. I totally get it. This gets people who are near Swatch stores into Swatch stores. Swatch is a fun brand with lots of funky designs. Personally, I really like some of the System 51 designs. Now, if people who generally aren't into watches go into a Swatch store and they buy a Moonswatch and it's a decent $260 watch, I agree wholeheartedly that a percentage of those people will go back and buy another Swatch in the future. I do not agree that that means they are more likely to purchase an Omega in the future. So I still don't see how this is as good for Omega as it is for Swatch, but I suppose Omega does benefit from the hype. However, if people spend $260 on a watch that breaks in the first month or two, or bleeds color onto their skin and clothes, they're not coming back for that cool System 51 that caught their eye the first time in the store, because they don't know what many of us already do. They don't know that the System 51 and the other Swatches are built better than the Moonswatch. Now, they think that Swatches are garbage. It was imperative that Swatch make the Moonswatch at least as good as the other Swatches, but they didn't. Also, by not selling them online, they have made them inaccessible for people who don't live anywhere near a Swatch store. And finally, even though this collaboration, and I use that term very loosely, was done to generate hype, Swatch didn't do a good job of anticipating the demand from that hype, and simply didn't make enough watches to supply that demand, which is a missed opportunity in terms of potential revenue. Basically, Swatch blew it. They didn't make enough watches, and the ones that they did make are garbage. But seriously, I know a few people who have Swatches that are over 10 years old. I also know a few more people who have Swatches that are 2 to 5 years old. They're affordable, fun, attractive, and reliable. Now a whole generation of potential watch buyers are gonna think that Swatch is crap because the Moonswatch they bought is crap. This whole thing is a debacle. I understand that in theory, there's no such thing as bad publicity, but Swatch really did a terrible job here, and the Moonswatch is still awful. Even if Adrian is right about the concept being a good idea, which to be clear, is still something I respectfully disagree with. I'd like to close with one last thought. Was it a Swatch with Omega styling, Or was it a $260 Omega? Well, it was supposed to be the former, but I saw on Instagram and TikTok, and even some of the guys that I interact with in person, that many people who weren't watch people believed this watch to be a super inexpensive Omega. That's probably the biggest reason that I hated this watch. I didn't like how it cheapened the Omega brand name, and I stand by that. I just never anticipated that it could somehow cheapen the Swatch name as well.